Number 10, Britney Spears' pregnancy. As we know, Britney Spears recently released a bombshell memoir coming through with some major allegations against Justin Timberlake. In what is now one of the most talked about parts of the book, Britney spills what is the biggest secret of all. She recalls her days on the Mickey Mouse Club where she met Christina Aguilera, Ryan Gosling, and yes, Justin Timberlake, who she later formed a romantic relationship with. She talked about their first kiss as a Janet Jackson song was playing in the background, and a difficult decision that she had to make in 2000 after learning that she was pregnant. She said, "It was a surprise, but for me it wasn't a tragedy. I love Justin so much. I always expected us to have a family together one day. This would just be much earlier than I'd anticipated." But she said that Justin definitely wasn't happy about the pregnancy. He said they weren't ready to have a baby in their lives and that they were way too young. We now understand why sources said that Justin was concerned about her memoir. Britney revealed that if the decision had been left up to her alone, she never would have gone through with it, but she only did it because Justin was so sure that he didn't want to be a father. Looking back at that experience, she said, "To this day, it's one of the most agonizing things she has ever experienced in her life." Number 9, cheating on Jessica Biel. A few years ago, Justin Timberlake and Alicia Wainwright made headlines when they were spotted holding hands during a night out in New Orleans. The two actors were shooting the movie Palmer, which is a drama about an ex-college football star who returns home after being in prison. The co-stars were photographed together getting cozy at a bar in Louisiana, sitting at a table holding hands and talking to one another. The photos showed Justin, who didn't appear to be wearing his wedding ring, holding hands with the actress underneath a table while the two of them were drinking. At one point, Alicia could be seen resting her hand on his knee, and while he was standing up, he put his arms around her waist. The photos caused a huge scandal when they came out because he's been married to Jessica Biel since 2012. Their relationship was really being tested, and Justin had to make a public statement the following month, apologizing for his strong lapse in judgment and claiming that in the photos, nothing happened between him and his co-star. The scandal led to multiple speculations about the nature of Justin's relationship with Jessica, but judging from the photos, it was pretty hard to deny that the two of them hadn't been having some kind of affair, though in Justin's case, it wouldn't be completely out of character. Number 8, the Janet Jackson incident. The infamous wardrobe malfunction that shook the entertainment world happened on stage during the 2004 Super Bowl halftime show, and that happened to none other than Janet Jackson. No one could forget when Janet and Justin performed Rock Your Body. As Justin reached the final note, he pulled off a piece of Janet's costume, which was essentially her bra cup, and she flashed an estimated 143 million viewers. According to Janet's publicist, the moment was only meant to reveal her red bra underneath, but a wardrobe malfunction resulted in the entire thing coming off. Viewers were shocked, Janet's career spiraled, and immediate scandal ensued. Since then, the incident has inspired numerous performances, songs, and TV episodes. In fact, last year, FX and Hulu released a documentary called Malfunction, The Dressing Down of Janet Jackson, which aimed to explore the racial and cultural currents that collided on the Super Bowl stage. Interestingly enough, the stylist who was behind Janet's Super Bowl look, Wayne Scott Lucas, told Page Six that Justin was behind it all because apparently he wanted to upstage Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera, who, as we know, kissed at the 2003 MTV Video Music Awards a few months earlier. Now, looking back on that moment, fans feel contempt for the fact that Justin had no problem humiliating one woman to try to get back at another one. Even now, there was very little repercussions for his actions. Number 7, 17 years too late. So it wasn't until 2021, 17 years after the event, that Justin finally went on the record to acknowledge how his past actions hurt Janet Jackson, which, as we know, ended up having catastrophic consequences for her career. In an Instagram post, he wrote, "I've seen the messages, tags, comments, and concerns, and I want to respond. I am deeply sorry for the times in my life where my actions contributed to the problem, where I spoke out of turn or did not speak up for what was right." He went on to say that he understands he fell short in these moments and in many others, and benefited from a system that condones misogyny and racism. Quote, "I specifically want to apologize to Britney Spears and Janet Jackson both individually, because I care for and respect these women and I know I failed." Finally, Justin said that he felt compelled to respond in part because everyone involved deserves better. He then called it a larger conversation that he wholeheartedly wants to be a part of and grow from. But his apology post didn't come out of nowhere. No, it actually came after the release of the documentary Framing Britney Spears, which sparked conversations about his role in Britney's downfall, like when he claimed that she cheated on him. But most people believe that his apology was too little too late. Number 6, accusations of cultural appropriation. While accepting a humanitarian award at the 2016 BET Awards, social justice activist and star of Grey's Anatomy Jesse Williams gave a stirring speech about racism and cultural appropriation in entertainment. He spoke about how the intervention of whiteness uses people of color, demeaning their creations and then stealing them, gentrifying their genius and then trying them on like costumes. While millions of people shared and applauded his speech on Twitter, Justin Timberlake also joined in. He tweeted the hashtag inspired and tagged Jesse Williams. And as you could imagine, this didn't sit well with a lot of people. Many claimed that he had been appropriating black culture for years with his music and his public persona, which is true since his music draws heavily from R&B, hip-hop, soul, and funk. And the inspiration behind some of his fashion choices is pretty hard to miss. He was suddenly put on blast by the whole internet, which was hilarious. Journalist Ernest Owens tweeted, "So does this mean you're going to stop appropriating our music and culture and apologize to Janet too?" So in this situation, he really should have known how people feel about cultural appropriation, since the term was becoming more widespread around 2016. Number 5, tone-deaf response. Unfortunately, Justin Timberlake responded in a rather tone-deaf, condescending, and dismissive way. He called Owens a sweet soul and said, "The more you realize that we are the same, the more we can have a conversation. Bye." Owens then wrote a piece for the Daily Beast where she said that his response made it clear that he had no time to engage in a fair conversation about racism in the music industry. In the end, Justin did delete his tweet and fired off a few clarifications, saying that he was responding to one specific tweet that wasn't meant to be a general response, and he also said that we are all one human race. This sparked discussions online about white privilege and how white celebrities can pick and choose elements of other cultures that are beneficial to them while experiencing none of the consequences of being from that culture, like the fact that he completely dodged any repercussions for the Super Bowl incident with Janet Jackson, while she was demonized for it for years. Number 4, grabbing Kylie Minogue. Justin Timberlake found himself in hot water again as a video of him performing with Kylie Minogue at the 2003 Brit Awards in London recently resurfaced. And with everything that's on the internet, it's no surprise that fans dug up this video once again. In the video, Justin is seen grabbing Kylie's behind while they are performing. According to reports, he had apparently asked her for permission before the performance, but she refused. Later on, he even bragged about representing America to the fullest by, quote, copping a feel. That is exactly the kind of person that Justin is. He has a history of harming women, and this is all a part of it. You might think this wasn't a really big deal, but the fact that Kylie refused and he still went ahead and did it mid-performance is a huge indicator of his entitlement. And this is hardly the first time he's been embroiled in a controversy involving a female pop star. In recent years, the once seemingly untouchable president of pop has been going through a major reckoning. He's been the subject of many think pieces about double standards that women face in the industry. So it makes sense that people are now looking back on his other controversial moments and talking about his red flags. Number 3, Crimea River music video. We all know that Justin wrote the 2002 hit song Crimea River about his relationship with Britney. The lyrics paint a picture of a relationship that gets ruined because the girl cheats. And to get even, the guy makes sure that she finds out that he's moved on with his life. The girl then gets upset and cries a river because she realized that she screwed up and lost him forever. The track was written and recorded after a heated phone conversation between Justin and Britney, where she allegedly broke up with him. Justin said that it only took him 2 hours to write the song. In the video, he uses a camera to record him sleeping with another girl. When his girlfriend comes back in, he sets up the camera so she will find the tape. The actress in the video looks almost identical to Britney Spears, and of course that was intentional. The former couple dated for 2.5 years before they broke up in 2002. He publicly claimed that she cheated on him with her choreographer Wade Robson. She eventually hit back at his allegations in 2003 and revealed that Justin was the only guy that she'd ever been with. Now, with the release of the 2021 documentary Framing Britney Spears, the song has been criticized for its misogynistic undertones. Number 2, embarrassing Britney. As we know, Justin and Britney were considered the it couple as soon as they got together. She was just 19 years old and under immense pressure to maintain a public image that was both sexy and innocent. And this was very difficult when every single TV and radio interviewer was constantly asking if she and Justin were sexually active. At one point, Britney addressed the speculation and said, "The virginity issue, it's a personal decision, and it reflects how I feel right now about myself. There are so many emotions involved that I would like to be able to wait until I know I'm with the right person and I'm married. But for his part, Justin obviously didn't feel like he had as much at stake, and he revealed that they had in fact been intimate. During a conversation with Hot 97, Justin was asked if they've ever done the deed, to which he says, "I did it, I'm dirty, I'm in so much trouble, man, I'm going to get calls from my mother." Britney addressed his confession years later, saying, "It was 2 years into my relationship with Justin, and I thought he was the one, but I was wrong. I didn't think he was gonna go on Barbara Walters and sell me out." Years later, the Framing Britney documentary was released, and it revealed how he used the breakup to boost his career. As a result, he immediately found himself at the receiving end of a ton of backlash over his past treatment of her. And coming in at number 1, hypocrisy. Aside from all his other issues, and there is a lot, Justin Timberlake has also been called out for being a hypocrite, like when he wore a Time's Up pin to the 2018 Golden Globes, despite the fact that he worked with Woody Allen in the past. While he claims to be a feminist now, it is difficult to forget that Barbara Walters interview that basically ruined Britney Spears' career. The insinuation that she cheated on him was something that Justin kept playing along with in order to further his own career. During the interview, Barbara asked him whether or not there was an incident where Britney did something very bad to hurt him, and he responded vaguely by saying, "We're not perfect, I don't judge anybody," but he was acting this way because he was trying to preserve his golden boy image. Meanwhile, his music was a different story. He continually brought up these cheating allegations in his songs, like when he took to the piano to perform an unreleased track called Horrible Woman, and the lyrics were, "So you've had your chance to be my lover, and there's really something more undercover." And later on in the interview, when Barbara Walters prodded him about whether the former couple lived up to Britney's desire to wait until marriage, he just laughed, and with a smile he said, "Sure." So he knew exactly what he was doing the whole time.
At number 10, we have verbally attacking Christopher Mintz during his Superbad audition. Beloved actor Christopher Mintz, otherwise known as Fogel or McLovin in the movie Superbad, was apparently wildly mistreated by his co-star Jonah Hill during the audition process. Auditions are nerve-wracking on a good day, but it certainly doesn't make them any easier when someone's being deliberately mean to you the whole time. Producer Judd Apatow remembered the audition, saying Mintz was very caustic and attacked Jonah and did improvs insulting Jonah as per the character requested, but Jonah let his insecurity get to him, apparently not caring for Christopher's snags, getting back at him in ways that he certainly didn't have to. Seth Rogen said that Jonah immediately hated him, saying that he was messing with his rhythm and couldn't perform with that guy around. Apatow added that Jonah said, "I don't like that guy and I don't want him doing it." And I said, "That's exactly why we're hiring him. It couldn't be more perfect. The fact that it bothers you is exactly why we want him." Which was a true read, because their dynamic in Superbad definitely seems to have come quite naturally to the boys. Hill says about his experience with Chris was really amazing off the bat, and I think he was just really annoying to me at the time, and his apparent irritation was apparently grounds to try and get him rejected from playing the role. This whole situation is a display of Jonah's insecurity, not wanting someone in the room to be funnier or cooler than him, and since Jonah's controversial texts have become public, Twitter users have commented on the situation, with Chris user HojaCat saying, "I knew Jonah Hill was a red flag when I found out he hated this human chipmunk right off the bat. Like, damn, you're a hater." At number 9, we have DiCaprio's revenge. Jonah co-starred alongside Leonardo DiCaprio in the 2013 film The Wolf of Wall Street, and their work together had cultivated in some pretty legendary as well as concerning pranks. Due to some rough treatment Hill received at Leo's hands, Jonah decided to plot some particularly nasty revenge against him. Hill explained that the film contains scenes requiring him and DiCaprio to act out physical fights, saying, "He basically beat me up for 6 months, and he's bigger than me, so I couldn't really retaliate or cause any damage to him." Although this was in the sport of movie magic, Hill wasn't happy with having his ego damaged and came up with something devious. In one scene they shot near the end of filming, DiCaprio and Hill's character eat sushi, and Hill's character is supposed to take the last piece and eat it when asked. But Hill went off script and told DiCaprio to eat it instead, and DiCaprio complied. But as we know, movies don't happen in one take, so Leo had to eat the sushi again and again. Hill says that they had to take 100 takes of him eating sushi over and over again. And I was like, this is my revenge right here. Later that night, Hill's plan unfolded with DiCaprio puking up all of the sushi, and now, I know the man is a comedian, but making someone vomit because their character stage punches you you seems a little bit extreme. Coming in at number 8 is his insults toward Jennifer Lawrence. On the set of 2021's most disappointing film, Don't Look Up, Jonah starred alongside Hunger Games actress Jennifer Lawrence. The two didn't have what we would call an amicable relationship on set because behind the scenes, Lawrence recently revealed that working with Hill was actually really hard. She says that the difficulty she faced on set was due to, quote, Hill's improv skills, and on one day dedicating an entire day to him just improving insults at the actress. Lawrence claims that he found his behavior funny, and although I believe her, he may have just gotten lucky to have a co-star that finds being endlessly insulted a good time. Everything Jen says about Jonah's comedic genius almost seems forced so as to not offend any fans of the beloved comedian, and it's also kind of hard to criticize someone who claims everything they do is a joke. Now at number 7 is Jonah's use of a homophobic slur, and although this behavior is never okay, he added insult to injury by saying it in a pretty combative context. In 2014, Jonah became increasingly fed up with a photographer's comment about his outfit, as one photographer quipped mocking his floral print board shorts, saying, "I like the shorts though, bro, they're pretty sexy." Apparently, Jonah can't take an insult himself and decided to say the most offensive thing he could think of, being that of a homophobic slur. This choice of words obviously does not line up with Jonah's values, as the actor has been a very vocal supporter of gay rights and famously blasted Russia's anti-gay laws leading up to the Winter Olympics. However, that means that this is a definitive show of cognitive dissonance. Jonah appeared on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon to apologize for what he'd said, addressing not simply The Tonight Show's studio audience, but all of humanity. And Hill solemnly said that if someone says something that hurts you or angers you, use me as an example of what not to do. Don't respond with hatred or anger because you are just adding more ugliness to the world. And I assume Hill's apology was sincere, but many have speculated that this was simply a PR stunt to save face. Coming in at number 6 is Jonah's bad temper in interviews. An infamously uncomfortable interview Hill gave with the Rolling Stone in 2013 entitled The Doobie Brothers Lighting Up with the Stars of This Is the End. The actor came across as obnoxious and prideful as he took himself too seriously. In the interview, Hill says, "I've done one of the biggest challenges you can do in Hollywood, which is transition from being a comedic actor to being a serious actor, and I'm really prideful of that. Which, my god, could you stroke your ego a bit more?" Many of Hill's co-stars and former interviewers warned the publication before interviewing the comedian, saying that he does this weird psycho staring thing at you. And Apatow described Hill as an angry nerd. When asked for tips on the interview process with Hill, Rogan replied, "He is serious, he is, which I'm not, and I don't know how to approach him. It's a good question," which is strange considering the duo are seemingly friends and should know how the other acts in situations like this. During the course of the Rolling Stone interview, Hill refused to talk about his workout routine, telling the magazine it's of little relevance, but that was only the beginning, as after a few more silly questions, Jonah lost it, saying to the interviewer, "I'm not answering dumb questions, I'm not the kind of person. Being in a funny movie doesn't make me have to answer dumb questions, it has nothing to do with who I am." And while the questions were asked in a joking manner, it didn't seem out of place, especially since his co-stars each almost gleefully answered. And coming in at number 5 is Andrew Tate's endorsement of Jonah's comments. It's not Jonah's fault that Andrew decided to comment on this controversy, however, it's never a good sign when Tate's on your side. Regarding his expectations in a partner, the controversial social media influencer and convicted criminal known for his controversial opinions and self-proclaimed misogyny, Andrew Tate retweeted a post by Candace Owens defending Jonah Hill's leaked texts. Owens' tweet claimed that there's nothing wrong with Hill's desires in a partner and criticized women in society today. Tate's endorsement of Hill's behavior came as no surprise given his track record of provocative statements on social media, and shows us with solid evidence that perhaps Jonah's opinions on how women should behave aren't necessarily ones that we should be promoting or agreeing with. At number 4 is Jonah's misuse of therapized language. In Brady's post of her ex-boyfriend's text messages, she highlights the problematic nature of Hill's texts, emphasizing his misuse of language regarding boundaries and suggesting that he would gaslight her to maintain control over her life, what she wears, her career moves, and her actions. Brady wrote on Friday that she posted the text screenshots as a warning to all girls, and that Hill has misused the term boundaries and just how he intended to use the word. She went on to share the photo of herself in a two-piece outfit that she had previously removed at Hill's request, saying that it infringed on his relationship boundaries to have it posted, although it wasn't revealing in the slightest, simply showing a bit of midriff in her legs. And Hill also called for the removal of a video of Brady surfing as she was in a bathing suit, which Brady begged to keep up as it was her quote, best surfing video, and was not done with the intention of even receiving male attention. She also added a text thread between them where she shows Hill the removal of these posts, to which he replied nothing more than "good start." These acts of control are in no way classified as breaking partnership boundaries, but instead many social media users have come forward saying that sometimes men go to therapy, receive knowledge of therapized language, only to spin its meaning to further abuse and manipulate their partners. Coming in at number 3 is the Stutz documentary. Jonah embarked on a documentary project in early 2022. Entitled Stutz is an insight into the psychological practice of Dr. Phil Stutz, showing the main techniques used by him throughout the years to help his patients live healthier, happy lives, and the interaction between him and Jonah. Many viewers have condemned the project, voicing the issues of such a friendly relationship with a paid psychotherapist. The doc was deemed a controversial display of the issues that can arise in this sort of client-therapist interaction, and the biggest concern being that elements of this film that claims to be well-researched account of Stutz' therapy model could potentially result in a misguided understanding of psychotherapy in general. This documentary may have been an incredibly irresponsible piece of media to produce, and lines up with the aforementioned lack of respect when it comes to the importance of taking therapy seriously. Our runner-up on this list is the most widely known, but Jonah's career built upon movies that promote less than ideal themes. Although Hill is a comedian and has some leeway when it comes to upsetting topics, it seems that he often laughs at difficult topics instead of making any sort of valuable commentary about them, in turn making these things seem okay to engage in. Such topics such as racism, sexism, fatphobia, male chauvinism, and assault all seem to be on the table for discussion. Although these things are allowed to be talked about in a comedic manner, context matters, and teaching young audiences that these things are acceptable is never a great thing to base your career off of. Which, hey, maybe that's why he wants to be taken so seriously in interviews. Teaching a generation that it's not only okay but also funny to disregard and harass women, say offensive and hurtful comments, and break the law must serve as a red flag that this guy might not be that great. Our number 1 spot goes to his misogynistic and narcissistic tendencies. Sarah Brady's experience of dating Jonah Hill seems to have been rooted in his need to, quote, seek out a fun, exciting girl full of life and light, and then try to destroy exactly what made those girls shine, as said by Twitter user Dr. Una McLevina. From Brady's text exchanges with Jonah Hill, it's clear that he intended to rob her of her whimsy and joy. Una continues by saying, for those who think Jonah is just setting boundaries, he chose to be with a surf instructor and then try to control the thing she loved to destroy it. This happens all the time. These are the first steps to coercive control. Brady added that someone being an emotionally abusive partner doesn't mean they're a terrible person, as it often stems from their own trauma, but at the same time, it doesn't mean it's okay. Being aware of how someone may hide their intentions to control you or another person through making you feel as though they are the victim is incredibly important to know and be vigilant of.
Number 10, War Veteran. Pete grabbed a lot of media attention after his appearance on SNL's Weekend Update segment. What really left fans upset was the comedian joking about the appearance of a candidate running for office. Backlash for the comments really started brewing as clips circulated from the segment where he mocks a Republican candidate who wears an eye patch. Dan Crenshaw was a former Navy SEAL who was running as the Republican candidate. Unfortunately, lost his eye after an explosion while serving in Afghanistan and is a combat veteran. In the segment, Pete joked about Dan, saying that he looks like a hitman in a movie. After seeing this, he seemed to realize what a mistake it was and said, "I'm sorry, I know he lost his eye in the war or whatever." Dan saw the segment and took to Twitter to share how this made him feel. He wrote, "Good rule in life. I try hard not to offend. I try harder not to be offended. That being said, I hope SNL recognizes that vets don't deserve to see their wounds used as punchlines for bad jokes." Many viewers came to the veterans' defense. One tweeted, "It made me sad to see our wounded veterans used as punchlines in a twisted hate fest on national TV shows in this way." Another commented back and added, "The fact that this so-called joke was approved by the entire staff of writers is horrific." Even Pete's co-stars weren't too pleased with the comment either, and Kean Thompson shared how he felt about this, admitted that it seemed he had gone too far with this one. He said, "My father's a Vietnam veteran, and personally I would just never go there. But it's tough when you're fishing for jokes." Pete did end up issuing an apology, but what did you guys think about that joke? Number 9, the engagement ring. People really started questioning the timeline of Pete buying Ariana's ring and maybe if it previously was meant to belong to someone else. After he got out of a 2-year relationship with Cassie David, it didn't take him long to move on to Ariana Grande and propose. Proposing just weeks after dating is a pretty wild thing for anybody. He shared how he did it in an interview not long after and admitted, "We were in bed hanging. After watching a movie, I was like, 'Will you marry me?' It was dope." It ended up lasting not too long though, and the two ended up breaking it all off after about 5 months, leaving many to believe, when did he actually get that ring? Celebrity jeweler Taylor, Greg Yuna, revealed that Pete first reached out for the nearly $100,000 engagement ring. Greg shared, "Pete called me at the end of May and said, 'I'm getting a ring and this is what I want.' He didn't tell me who it was for, but he told me to keep it a secret." This is definitely weird considering Pete and Cassie broke up May 16, 2018, so it didn't take long to get engaged to Ariana. Could the ring have initially been meant for Cassie? Cassie seemed to take this whole thing in stride though, and after they announced their engagement, she posted on Instagram saying, "Been in Africa, what did I miss?" Number 8, pushing a fan. Just recently, a video published by TMZ came out showing Pete pushing a fan that looked to be getting a little bit too excited to see him. The man appeared to approach from behind and put his arm around him. Continuing to appear to get into his personal space, Pete ended up pushing the man off him, then shaking his head, looking to tell him to knock it off. Before this went down, Pete reportedly was very excited to be there and looked to be in pretty good spirits. Many fans did seem to be on Pete's side though, agreeing that no one should be getting in anyone's personal space. One fan wrote, "In all other clips, I've seen that guy in there trying to grab at him. He was obviously annoying him for a while." Another added, "Being touched without permission warrants it." Others were kind of unsure though, commenting on the man's age as well as how hard the push looked to be. Another viewer commented on the clip on TikTok saying, "If he was a 19-year-old female, he wouldn't have cared." Number 7, the tattoos. How soon is too soon to get a tattoo for your significant other, in your opinion? For Pete, it looks like any time is the right time. Pete started getting tattoos for his then girlfriend Kim Kardashian pretty early on. When Kim was asked about it, she shared on the Ellen show, "He has a few new ones." And I'm like, oh, that's cute, but that's what tattoo people do, right? They get tattoos of what's going on in their life. Pete got a few tattoos of Kim, with one even being in celebration of Kim passing the baby bar. He got a tattoo that said, "My girl is a lawyer." But the one that really made fans concerned was the tattoo of her kid's initials. The tattoo in his neck read KNSCP, which looks to be for Kim and her 4 kids that she had with her ex-husband Kanye. Fans considered this the ultimate red flag, with one writing, "Branding your girl of a few months' name on your body is weirdo behavior." Another added, "These are children, creepy beyond belief." Number 6, we have the Manchester joke. A joke that really seemed to miss the mark was when Pete joked about the Manchester bombing, which happened at his then girlfriend Ariana Grande's concert. 22 people passed away due to a homemade explosion outside the arena after Ariana's concert. Pete made a joke on SNL saying that she must know just how famous she really is now, explaining that Britney Spears didn't have an attack at any of her concerts. A parent of one of the victims that lost their life came forward to share just how horrible this joke was, and said, "For anyone to joke about the situation is disgusting, and I think he should publicly apologize for it." She continued on by saying, "The families will find it equally as disgusting. We don't need to hear jokes about it." The parents even stressed how horrifying this joke must be to hear for Ariana, considering it was made by her then boyfriend. Following the intense backlash, Pete's representative came forward and explained that no joke is off limits for him. They said, "He is a comedian, no subject is off limits." Number 5, Staten Island. Pete has been pretty open about how he feels about his hometown of Staten Island, and it's not great. He answered the question about how he feels about his hometown and responded by saying, "F them all, they all suck. They have nothing to do with me or my success. It's a terrible borough filled with terrible people. A tidal wave could take out Staten Island and I wouldn't even move in my sleep." So it sounds decently harsh to many. Pete tried to explain that people should see more humor in it, and shared, "It was a joke, a serious joke. You know when you're joking but you mean it." Clearly not much is going to change his mind about Staten Island, and I'm sure for the locals that feeling is mutual. Number 4, Cassie David. Cassie David is known for a lot of things, her dad being Larry David, being a web series creator, author, etc. But the main thing people have been associating her with is having dated Pete Davidson. When the two broke up after about 2.5 years, Cassie came out with an essay collection titled "No One Asked for This," revealing the aftermath of a breakup like this. She shared that the two took a brief break from their relationship in 2018 until she quickly backpedaled and realized it wasn't what she wanted, and she really did want to be with him. She admitting to calling the comedian just days later to work out their issues, but he told her that he was the happiest he had ever been without her. Reportedly, just 2 days after this phone call, he texted her to officially put an end to the relationship. Allegedly, within 24 hours of that, she became aware that Pete was already moved on and with Ariana Grande, and she saw a photo posted showing that he had covered his tattoos, which were originally inspired by her. The tattoos included a cartoon portrait of Cassie as well as her name on his ring finger. To add salt to the wound, it was only a few weeks after the breakup up that he was engaged to Ariana. 2 years after this heartbreak, Cassie recalls the breakup as being the really pivotal moment in her life, and even said in her essay, "Writing about it has caused me a ton of anxiety, especially because I talk so much about hating the attention that it brought me. But there's nothing that's going to be worse than what I already experienced with that." Number 3, the car crash. Pete Davidson found himself in trouble with the law after crashing his car with his rumored girlfriend in the passenger seat just earlier this March. He was behind the wheel of a Mercedes and speeding down the Flats neighborhood of Beverly Hills. Pete ended up crashing his car into a home in the neighborhood, scaring the teenager who was home alone at the time. According to the girl, the sound was so intense that she believed that she was actually in the middle of an earthquake. The homeowner told TMZ that the car hit the house just outside of the living room, causing damage to the outer wall. But luckily no one was hurt. For now, it looks like the owners are still waiting on a full report from the police before they plan on turning it over to their insurance company. But how does something like this even happen? Allegedly, Pete lost control while speeding when he jumped a curb and crashed into the house. Looks like the case is being reviewed by the LA County District Office, and Pete could soon face criminal charges. Number 2, Tic Tacs. Another joke that Pete made during the weekend update segment on SNL that really didn't land is the Tic Tac joke. While Pete was engaged briefly to Ariana, he would discuss her periodically on the show. During this segment, he was talking to the host, Colin Jost, about how different his life was since he got engaged. And though most of the jokes were pretty well received, one really didn't sit well with viewers. He said during the episode, "Last night I switched her birth control with Tic Tacs. I believe in us and all, but I just want to make sure she can't go anywhere." Viewers took to Twitter to talk about their outrage. One wrote, "Pete Davidson has been pretty funny, except for the birth control swapped with Tic Tacs joke." They went on to write, "Do not mess with a woman's birth control. We need that stuff." Another added writing, "That TikTok birth control joke was gross." Others stated that they believed this comment was misogynistic and that this wasn't something to joke about whatsoever. Pete has always been known to push the boundaries on comedy though, so this joke really wasn't a surprise to his fans. Number 1, the outburst. Pete was the cause of a pause to production on his new comedy show after he reportedly had a meltdown on set. It is reported that Pete threw 2 candles through the window and a cup of coffee at the walls. Because of this situation, it's been claimed that the production team had to eventually ask the star to take some time away. Initially, it was reported that the comedian was looking to take some time to focus on himself. The Sun made an update that Pete was actually under quite a bit of stress and everything was just becoming way too much for him to handle. A few believe that this could be a reaction to when he split up with his then-girlfriend Kim Kardashian. The split is speculated to have ended because of conflicting schedules and the inability to see each other, and it just wasn't seeming to work long distance. Regardless of why, reports claim that the outburst must have been pretty bad considering they pushed Pete to take some time off, which is said to be very unusual for the team to allow.
Number 10, bad at comedy. A wise person on Twitter said, "James Corden might be a lot of things, but I draw the line at him being labeled a comedian. Aside from the fact that he's just straight up not funny, he seems to have an awful habit of failing to read the room and noticing when his poor jokes fall flat. Fans remember when he completely bombed at an AIDS research benefit gig in LA in 2017. In an effort to appear edgy, he brought up the Weinstein scandal that had just come out that very same week. In videos of the event, James said that it was a beautiful night in LA. So beautiful, Harvey has already asked tonight up to his hotel to give him a massage. He ignores the loud groans from the audience and then says, "It has been weird this week, hasn't it? Watching Harvey in hot water. Ask any of the women who watched him take a bath." The backlash against him was huge, and rightfully so. If you're going to make offensive jokes, you have to at least be funny. Number 9, ruining movies. James Corden's acting career started out well enough, but things went downhill fast as his fame grew. It's well known that he pretty much accepts every work offer that comes his way without much consideration, resulting in multiple flops. These included some truly awful movies like Cinderella, Lesbian Vampire Slayers, and The Emoji Movie. He also came under fire for exploiting gay stereotypes with his character in The Prom. But his most cringeworthy performance ever was in the movie Cats, where he played a creepy humanoid cat called Bustopher Jones. The CGI human cats were literally sickening to look at and have been the subject of my nightmares for too long. The movie was a critically savage box office disaster. Despite James saying that he didn't regret his involvement, he later admitted that he would never ever watch the film himself. In fact, people are so sick of seeing him on the big screen and ruining every musical he touches that there is now a viral petition to keep James Corden out of the new Wicked movie. So far, it has more than 100,000 signatures. Number 8. Rude to waiters. On Monday, the owner of a high-end New York City restaurant called Balthazar made a viral Instagram post blasting James Corden for his horrible behavior towards staff. He called him a tiny cretin of a man and the worst customer to his servers since the restaurant opened 25 years ago. He claimed that in one instance, James demanded 2 free rounds of drinks for him and his friends after he presented a hair that was found on his food and said, "Get us another round of drinks this second. And also take care of all our drinks so far. This way I won't write any nasty reviews on Yelp." On another occasion, he is said to have flipped out when an egg yolk omelette his wife ordered was found to have very little egg white in it. He allegedly went ballistic and started tearing into the waiter, saying, "Maybe I should go into the kitchen and cook the omelette myself." According to the owner, James was so awful that he felt compelled to out him publicly and ban him from the restaurant, something that is very rarely done in high-end establishments. Number 7. Fight with Patrick Stewart. A clip from the 2010 Glamour Awards resurfaced recently where Patrick Stewart obliterates James Corden on stage, and it's the definition of public humiliation. They were presenting an award together when Stewart suddenly decided to call him out for his disinterested attitude towards the ceremony. He said, "When the presenters are up here and when the recipients are receiving their awards, don't stand at the back of the stage with your hands in your pockets looking around as though you wished you were anywhere but here." Corden was super caught off guard at first, and so was everyone else in the audience. He was obviously embarrassed and shot back with, "If I look like that, I'm sorry, but when you come up and present an award, just effing get on with it." Both of them should have moved on from there, but it somehow got even cringier when Stewart decided to make fun of Corden's weight. He said, "From where I was sitting, I can see your belly," and that was over at the back of the room. But it continued back and forth for a few minutes, but it was so uncomfortable to watch, it felt more like hours. Loving this video so far? Please hit that like button, it would really help us out. Number 6. Exposed on Reddit. In 2019, James wanted to surprise fans by making an appearance on Reddit's infamous Ask Me Anything thread to promote a special edition of the show. But the plan massively backfired when users started flooding the thread talking about the horrible experiences they've had meeting him in real life. In the end, James was only able to answer 3 questions before he dipped. Probably because the truth was coming out about him and he was getting brutally roasted. One viral post said, "Hey James, you won't remember me, but me and my friends sat at a table next to you and Harry Styles, and some others in Manchurian Legends in London's Chinatown about 6 years ago. We didn't bother you, but you were a massively entitled C-word who yelled and treated the waitstaff like crap. And when one of my party politely suggested that you calm down, you got really aggressive and threatening. So my question is, why did Harry seem so cool while you were a massive throbbing bellend?" Number 5. Flight incident. This one absolutely boils my blood. We're going to talk about the infamous Reddit post that horrified the internet. Half an hour into a New York to London flight, passengers in business class noticed a woman with a crying baby being brought through the curtains by a flight attendant. They looked on in mild horror as they saw the attendant direct her into an empty seat next to James Corden. They were expecting him to throw a fit, but instead he simply put on a pair of noise-canceling headphones, pulled an eye mask over his eyes, and turned away from her to sleep. Pretty decent of him, right? When the plane landed, passengers were surprised to see him remain seated as the woman with the baby struggled to open the overhead locker, and even more surprised when she turned to him and said, "For F's sake, can you at least hold the baby while I get the bags?" The woman was his wife. The baby was his baby. That's the father of the year right there. Number 4. Fake persona. While Corden's public image is of a lovable Brit, his behavior in private has been described by some as less than desirable, and that is an understatement. For many people, the nice guy public persona has worn thin, and there are too many cases where the mask has slipped, revealing a more arrogant and spiteful side to him. Corden increasingly gained a reputation, all for behaving badly towards the people who work for him and with him. One allegation by comedian and podcaster Jack Allison was that he attended a Writers Guild Association meeting specifically to advocate for lowering the pay of his late-night writers. How disgusting is that? He was also allegedly extremely rude to production assistants and staff while filming the UK game show A League of Their Own. To sum it all up, the editor-in-chief of Hard Drive magazine, Jeremy Kalpowitz, tweeted, "James Corden is the most worked with the robots to betray the humans and get put back into the Matrix as a famous actor person who has ever existed." Number 3. Pretend driving. Carpool karaoke was one of the most popular segments on The Late Show, but on the 2nd of January in 2020, fans spotted Corden filming a new episode with Justin Bieber and shared the video to Twitter. Rather than being on the road, the black SUV was being towed by a tow truck, and Corden was pretending to drive it. The viral video led to mass outrage on social media, with many people criticizing the host for being deceptive and labeling labeling him as an outright phony. He really had no choice but to address the scandal and said, "Fake news, I always drive the car, unless we're doing something where we think it might not be safe." He did admit that the car had been towed on rare occasions, but maintained that 95% of the time he was driving it. The thing is that a lot of people tuned into his show only for carpool karaoke, so the fact that it was staged made the episodes feel artificial and took a lot of the fun out of it. Number 2, doesn't know his own crew. Amidst the growing controversy, other videos exposing James Corden have resurfaced online, and one shows the awkward moment when he was asked to name members of his own TV crew, and he couldn't do it. In the video from 2016, Jimmy Kimmel appeared on The Late Show for a game called Spill Your Guts or Fill Your Guts, a truth or dare game that gives guests the option of eating disgusting foods or answering personal questions. He then tells James, "Name 2 of the cameramen in this room." He started laughing because it was obvious that he didn't know. Then he just said, "That is a great question. It's a different crew tonight actually." In the end, he had to drink a fish smoothie because he couldn't name the crew members. Then, if you think that was a coincidence, 1 year later, during a Q&A segment with his audience, one crowd member asked him to name a cameraman and he failed once again. I mean, this is far from the worst thing that he's ever done, but it does go to show you that he doesn't really care about the people that work underneath him. And coming in at number 1, universally disliked. If you want to know how the majority of people really feel about James Corden, just spend 5 minutes on Twitter. When Ryanair announced on Twitter that they had also banned James from flying with them, the reactions were hilarious. So many memes flooded the platform of people claiming that he had been banned from other random places like the Glee Club or Fortnite. A meme even went viral of Dakota Johnson looking excited, with the caption, "Watching the long-awaited downfall of James Corden." One user wrote, "I don't need James Corden banned from Balthazar, I need him banned from movie musicals." Someone else tweeted, "A reminder that James Corden is an utter prick, an unfunny bellend of a man. There's a reason he's hated in the UK. Here he is being a wanker to Patrick Stewart, who called him out for being unprofessional." Former TMZ journalist Morgan Tremaine said that James Corden is a prime example of fame obliterating someone's sense of basic decency towards other people. Someone even called him the late-night version of Ellen, so it's a wonder that he has any fans left at all.
At number 10, caught using racial slurs. In 2009, Prince Harry was dealt a huge blow to his reputation when a video emerged of him using racial slurs against members of his own army platoon while they waited to be deployed from Sandhurst Military Academy. In the video, which appears to have been taken by Harry himself, you can hear the prince using offensive language as well as insensitive racial comments. The media referred to this coming out as Harry's latest successful attempt to shoot himself in the foot. His remarks were splashed in the news of the world and were condemned by politicians and some British Muslim spokesmen. Harry, of course, was forced to make a public apology and to try and save the royal family from further embarrassment. In his statement, Harry said that he understood the impact of his words and the offense they could cause. The video was taken a few years prior when Harry was 21, which is certainly old enough to know that what he was saying was unacceptable and unnecessary. The video was relentlessly played around the world, so his apology seemed a little forced, but I guess like most things within the royal family, we just moved on and it was eventually overshadowed by the next scandal. At number 9, stepping down. When Harry announced that he was dating Meghan Markle, I don't think anyone could have ever guessed what would happen in just a few years. In a short period of time, Meghan began being absolutely bombarded by the British press, paparazzi, people online, and many others. Apparently, the general consensus was that she was no good for Harry, a bad fit for the royal family, and as time went on, Markle was only accused of being a horrible person and breaking up the family more and more. The more people talked about Meghan, the more people talked about the potential of her leaving the royal life behind. Some thought that Harry would never join her in a million years, but a majority of people invested saw that nothing was getting in the way of Harry and his wife, including his family. Even tabloids accused her of breaking up the family early on, and as we all know now, that's exactly what happened. Not only did the couple step down, but they went down swinging, milking everything they could out of no longer being royals. With multiple interviews, a docuseries, and a memoir, the couple did not leave quietly, even though a lot of people wished they had. At number 8, sneaky Halloween. It seems that in the past, any chance Harry had to rebel the royals, he took, even following him into adulthood. During the first half of their docuseries, Meghan and Harry, the couple shared lots of personal memories and unseen photos. One specific event they talked about was Halloween 2016. This happened before they went public with their relationship, so I can't imagine the royal family would have approved of the outing. Meghan mentioned the Halloween party when she previously went on Ellen, telling the talk show host that they were in Toronto, and since it was Halloween, it was a perfect time to go out without being noticed. Harry and Meghan shared previously unseen photographs of them along with cousin Princess Eugenie, her husband Jack Brooksbank, and their friend Marcus. Markle shared that this was actually the couple's final night out before spilling the news of their relationship to the public. The group was all decked out in Mad Max style outfits, including including hats, goggles, face masks, and some makeup to appear a bit rough around the edges. Whatever they were dressed as in the photos is quite the opposite of what we see when they're in their royal family mode. This alone just proves that he and Meghan were already finding ways to go against the royals before they even went public. At number 7, holding out hope. Of course, in Spare, Harry talks about his mother, Princess Diana. Losing a parent is hard on any person at any age, and grief is quite the thing to deal with, and Harry opened up about what it looked like for him. He reveals in the book that he only cried once after Diana was gone, and it was once her coffin actually went into the ground. After that, there was never another time. The reason he spent his teenage years dry-eyed over his mother is because young Harry didn't believe she was really gone. He told Anderson Cooper on 60 Minutes, "For a long time I just refused to accept that she was gone. Part of, she would never do this to us, but also part of, maybe this is all part of a plan." Harry then revealed that he really believed that she would eventually call and they would be reunited for many years. He also talked about how William and him would even discuss the theory with his brother sharing similar thoughts. Clearly, from a young age, those boys knew that the family had a lot of power to even pull off such a thing. In Spare, Harry writes, "I'd often say to myself first thing in the morning, maybe this is the day. Maybe this is the day she's gonna reappear." Harry said he held on to his huge amounts of hope into adulthood. At number 6, isolated from the family. In his memoir, Harry writes about visiting Balmoral during his grandmother's final days and how isolated he felt from the rest of the family, even though he had just been putting all of his energy into exposing them, talking badly about them, and trying to get as far away as possible from them. Harry returned to the UK after he and Meghan made their official exit for a charity event in London. While he was there, the palace announced that the Queen was under medical supervision at her castle in Scotland. Harry planned to head over to see her right away, so he asked his brother, "What are your plans? How are you and Kate getting there?" Since he was already in the UK, it would make sense that he would fly with the family. Harry then revealed that just a couple of hours later, all the members that live within the Windsor area were jumping on a plane together, and he was left to find his own way there. I think the fact that his entire family would rather fly separately is a red flag in itself, but the fact that he couldn't wrap his head around why they would do it only makes it worse. At number 5, a sea of photographers. In their docuseries, Harry and Meghan talked about the press a lot and how they would not leave Meghan alone from the minute the couple went public. One of the images used in the 6-part series meant to showcase the volume of photographers they face is apparently from a movie premiere that happened before the couple was even a couple. The black and white image of rows of photographers is included in the teaser for the series just before Harry says, "I had to do everything I could to protect my family." This clearly implies that the photographers in the image were taking pictures of him and Meghan. Well, apparently that's not even close. According to The Sun, the sea of cameras were in reality taking pictures of the cast of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 at the premiere for the film in 2011. Photographer for the publication Doug Seberg, who's in the image, said there were no members of the royal family at the event. Really makes you wonder if they had to use images out of context to prove the paparazzi were bad. Were they really that bad? At number 4, inappropriate costume. In January 2005, British paper The Sun published a full front page photo of Harry sporting an extremely offensive anti-Semitic costume at a party. Not only was the costume offensive and outdated, it was a lazy costume too, just a white shirt and an armband. There are so many other things you can add to a white button-down to make a costume that isn't offensive. The prince was 20 at the time, and after a wave of backlash and criticism, he quickly released a statement of apology. It read, "Prince Harry has apologized for any offense or embarrassment he has caused. He realizes it was a poor choice of costume." Funny that he only realized after the party and not while putting it on. For a family that's not supposed to have any opinions on politics, this is especially not what you want to be caught promoting. To top it off, Harry wrote about the costume in his memoir, and instead of taking full responsibility and just apologizing again, he dragged Prince William and Kate into it, saying they were the ones who encouraged him to wear such an outfit. At number 3, Harry's substance use. Back in the day, Prince Harry went through what tabloids labeled as a wild child phase, as most young men do. A lot of people just brushed his behavior off, especially when it came out that Charles found out about the young prince's experimentation, taking him along to a rehab center for a day. However, it was still a lot of people's impression that Harry was struggling regardless of his father's lousy attempt to steer him straight. In his memoir, Spare, Harry goes into detail about the severity of his problem and that it wasn't just a teen boy being a teen boy, he was trying to cope with the passing of his mother. He admitted that he had a lot of anger inside of him for a long time that he never expressed to anybody. This led the prince to resort to drinking heavily. Harry explained that he wanted to numb the feeling and distract himself. Of course, now he knows that this was not the way to achieve it. Luckily for Harry, his problem didn't get so bad he ended up getting hurt, but a lot of his antics can be explained now that the secret has been confirmed. All of those people who knew something was off with Harry during his wild phase were right. Harry did have a bigger problem than Charles thought. At number 2, remembering wrong. In his memoir, Harry recalls his great-grandmother and where he was upon finding out that the Queen Mother had passed. He gives a painstakingly detailed recount of the phone call he received while at Eton College, informing him of the news in 2002. He wrote, "At Eton, Eton while studying, I took the call. I wish I could remember whose voice was on the other end, a courtier's I believe. I recall it was just before Easter, the weather bright and warm, light slanting through my window filled with vivid colors. This memory is sweet of him to share, but I think it would be even sweeter if it were true. When it comes to Prince Harry, his entire life pretty much has been documented, so it's pretty easy to fact check. When he found out about his great-grandmother, Harry was not in fact at Eton. Resurfaced paparazzi photographs placed Harry in Gloucester, Switzerland that weekend. A royal commentator, Richard Fitzwilliams, told Mail Online, "With a book so controversial that he can't afford mistakes such as this. If he makes an error in his own memory, what else is he saying that's untrue?" And at number 1, Prince Harry caught naked. 10 years ago, in 2012, 27-year-old Prince Harry set out on a boys' trip to Las Vegas. He was on a break before he was set to serve in Afghanistan for the British Army. While in Vegas, he decided to partake in a cheeky game of strip billiards, which clearly isn't his game. Photos were snapped of the prince sporting absolutely nothing but a hand in front of the family jewels. The British media had an absolute heyday with the leaked photos, running them on the front page with headlines like "Harry grabs the crown" and "Here it is." The photo was reposted all over the internet, and even Lady Gaga commented on it saying, "Holy mother, Harry looks fit." Hope no one's mad at him for that, I'm certainly not. The royal family was in fact not pleased with Harry's Vegas antics. After the incident, Harry made a statement, "At the end of the day, I probably let myself down, but it was probably a classic example of me probably being too much army and not enough prince. It's a simple case of that." I think Harry was just having harmless fun with his friends. Clearly, the royal family had their hands full with Harry. I guess that trip he learned that what happens in Vegas does not stay in Vegas.
Number 10. Seizing control. As part of a countersuit regarding the dispute surrounding the sale of the winery shares, Angelina Jolie's former company Novell has claimed that Brad Pitt wanted only to control the winery estate, Chateau Miraval, and that is why he is upset about the selling of the shares. In actuality, they claim he only wanted to control the joint financial venture and for years has been pushing them out and wasting assets on lavish projects that they deem completely unnecessary and unrelated to the winery's success, including a swimming pool and a recording studio, which I gotta say, doesn't seem super relevant to making wine, but you know. And friends, before I move on to this next spot, if you find this whole feud that's been going on for years between Brad and Angelina to be pretty crazy, let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. I think it's pretty crazy. Pretty sad, really. Number 9. Juliette Lewis. While this relationship has been lovingly reminisced on by both Juliette Lewis and Brad Pitt, the fact remains that it's kind of an odd one, even for the time period. The two ended up meeting on the set of California, with both of them being considered young, hopeful talents of Hollywood at the time. They dated for 4 years and seemed to have a great and beautiful romance, and just as Brad Pitt was actually getting ready to blow up, basically. But there was something a little odd about this relationship. When they started seeing each other, there was a 10-year gap between them. Now, this might not seem super strange, considering there have been, bigger age gaps in celebrity couples and in regular couples, and for some, that still seems pretty normal. But the real weird part of it was that they were at two very different sort of points in their life, with Brad being 27 or turning 27 and Juliette only being 17. Yeah, so she was still in high school, which I mean, I guess they could still connect over work, both being performers, but other than that, their life experiences would have been probably pretty different at that point. Some people still find this to be an odd relationship today, especially considering it managed to go strong for 4 years. However, both of them still remember it pretty fondly, although they no longer talk, which I think is pretty weird, but I guess it was a long time ago. Number 8. The divorce. I think one of the biggest red flags that people tend to overlook in cases like this is when things drag on. It's never a good sign, and it can usually mean that there are bigger issues that are kind of being danced around but not really unearthed or talked about. People who are able to put the past behind them and just move forward generally have nothing to dance around. That's why it's, so easy for them to just move forward with their lives. They have let go and they don't hold things against their former partner. But with Brad and Angelina, both of them seem to be struggling to let go and are still stuck in disagreements with each other even to this day, which could be an indicator that there is a bigger reason as to why they split, other than just deciding to go their own way. And that's what we're beginning to see really delved into now, as Jolie seems to realize that she maybe has to lay it all out or she'll never really be free. That she has to dive into some traumatic moments that she perhaps would have rather been kept a little bit more private and less publicized. There's also the fact that it took them 3 years to get themselves legally declared as single. Just declared as single, which is a long time. A standard divorce, by the way, takes between 4 to 6 months, months to get finalized, although obviously when there's custody battles and stuff involved, it can take longer, but it's still been a long time, even considering that. Number 7. Addiction. After the split between Brad and Angelina, Pitt cited personal problems as one of the issues for sort of the arguments that led to their divorce. In response, he decided it was time to do something about these problems and admitted himself to AA. This might not be a red flag in the sense that obviously going to AA is a good thing if you have a problem all in all, but it is a red flag that he did so right after the divorce, implying that his misuse had gotten to the point that it was dramatically affecting his life, with the divorce and whatever happened to trigger it kind of acting as a wake-up call for him, which kind of could be an indicator that there's something worse there. At least there was in the past, you know? Number 6. NDA. In the current legal battle between Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, the two are now feuding over the winery that they once shared and what Angelina decided to do with said shares. Initially, the two had an agreement that they would get clearance before selling, but when Jolie sold her shares behind Pitt's back, he protested. It was reported that Jolie wanted out of the joint business ventures and that Pitt was willing to buy the shares, but then their deal fell through. And this was apparently after months of them negotiating. Well, Pitt claims this was so that Jolie could purposefully harm him after he was awarded shared custody of their 6 children. Jolie claims their deal actually fell through because Pitt wanted her to sign an NDA as part of the sale to him. Jolie was unwilling to sign that NDA as she felt this would limit her capacity to speak the truth of why their marriage dissolved and problems surrounding it. She obviously just didn't want to be silenced, if that is the case. While the two have differing stories as to why this deal fell apart, if Jolie is speaking true, why did Brad want to keep her quiet? And what were the terms of the NDA covering? Also, if it was a relationship, how does that relate to selling the winery? That doesn't seem like it should be included at all. Number 5. Harvey Weinstein. Although some say that Brad Pitt was one of the few who stood up to this unfortunately wasn't always the case. When it comes to his relationship with the notorious producer, many tell of the 1995 story where Pitt stood up to him to protect his then girlfriend Gwyneth Paltrow, who confessed that Weinstein had severely mistreated her, which to be honest is an understatement. However, what those people seem to be missing or not focusing on is the fact that after this incident, although Pitt did stand up to him, he also later worked with him. What? The 2009 film Inglourious Basterds, which Pitt starred in, was both distributed by and co-financed by the Weinstein Company. Angelina Jolie claims that Brad Pitt also approached the producer to work on his 2012 film Killing Them Softly, whose company ended up as the distributor for that film, which really hurt her because she also had a bad experience with him too. So, like, what? Also pretty messed up, I feel like, if you do that when, you know, your wife is like, please don't work with this person. Number 4, she said. So Brad Pitt is complicated when it comes to his history with Harvey Weinstein. He privately spoke out against him years ago in the 90s when he, actively threatened the man when he put his hands on Paltrow, but then he was willing to work with him in 2009 and the 2010s. In 2019, he spoke out against the man, however, disavowing him and sharing the story of his experience defending Paltrow in the 90s. He also went on to executive produce the film She Said. Some people though deem this to be quite controversial, considering that Brad Pitt also seemed to be willing to work with him only a few years ago, which seems hypocritical. Is it all a show, or does Brad Pitt genuinely condemn this man? She Said is a film that follows the New York Times investigation of Weinstein and is also being produced by Pitt's production company, Plan B Entertainment. Number 3, allegations. Recently, things have escalated quite a bit in the legal cases between Brad and Angelina, with Angelina even bringing up a previous incident that seems to be the inciting one in terms of their divorce. She alleges that Brad severely mistreated her and their children while on a flight, and based on the account given, that's truly an understatement here. It's said that Brad Pitt was under the influence and verbally attacked Angelina before turning on the kids when they came to their mother's defense, even getting physical. She also has attested that she and the kids are willing to provide evidence of this in court, and she's even willing to testify. Number 2, the kids don't want to see him. While Brad Pitt reportedly does see his younger kids but prefers to do so unphotographed, which honestly makes sense. I mean, who wants paparazzi around at all really to photograph anything other than maybe like a movie premiere? That's the only time, I think. It's also reported that he perhaps hasn't seen his older kids in years. In fact, according to a source for US Weekly, Pitt does not have any kind of relationship with his eldest son, Maddox, and doesn't talk to Pax either. In fact, it seems that the inciting incident on the airplane in 2016 is likely where the breakdown of the relationship between son Maddox and father Brad began. The source is saying ever since then, it's been really rough between them. However, according to a source for People, Pitt does still see and maintain a good relationship with his younger children, having nightly dinners with them whenever they are in LA. But it's interesting that his older kids seem to not want to see him, especially as, they're older, so they kind of have more, I guess, more agency in making that choice. Number 1. Testimony. Maddox doesn't only not have a good relationship with his father, but reportedly also testified against him during the custody battle. Although we don't know exactly what was said, an exclusive source told US Weekly, Maddox has already given testimony as an adult in the ongoing custody dispute, and it wasn't very flattering towards Brad. It's also been said that the distance is so great that Maddox even wants to legally change his name. The source added he doesn't use Pitt as his last name on documents that aren't legal, and instead uses Jolie. Maddox wants to legally change his last name to Jolie, which Angelina has said she doesn't support.